when you get to understand the temperaments and understand the personalities, you could really have a lot of fun with this. You start understanding people so much better because if you're a leader and you have to deliver a message, you can't talk to everybody the same. You have to understand who you're talking to and deliver your message differently.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Business in the Bible. It is so good to be with you all again. We're excited to continue studying God's Word just to discover what He has for us as we continue leading our businesses His way. Our mission is to empower entrepreneurs with time-tested biblical principles. There's so much that God has for us in His Word, and we want to mine that out of His Word and be able to use it, implement it, ultimately to glorify Him. He has entrusted to each and every one of us specific skill sets, and with that responsibility, I think that He calls us to a higher standard, really, than the rest of the world. As far as leading our businesses. And I think because He's got such a great purpose in it. As we talked about last time, it's not just about surviving the daily requirements and financial needs with our businesses, but rather truly about building His kingdom. King's glory is a growing population. And so as we run our businesses God's way, His kingdom grows, both in number and in depth. And so that's our goal here. We're going to we've been studying Exodus chapter 18. Last time, as we concluded, we were talking about the importance of this Jethro principle, which we said is not just to have somebody to show you what you're not doing so great in your business, but really the impact that that can have on the people in your business. And we gave the examples that if I'm constantly just caulking trim, then my guys are, one, they're going to run out of stuff to do, and two, I'm really spending time on stuff that it's just not the best use of my time. So there's a lot of ways to crash the plane, really.
You're never going to live hawking that trim down.
Right. Exactly. So, what we're going to move into today is what Jethro told Moses that he needs to do, his prescribed plan for conquering this problem of just overworking yourself in this one thing. He said to him that you need to appoint leaders, that you need to teach these leaders and raise them up. But in it, I see one of the things that I know you love to teach, Mr. Manzari, is some of the personality differences. And we see that in the fact that he says you need to appoint leaders of thousands, leaders of hundreds, leaders of 50, and leaders of 10. And I think in that we really do see the differences in personalities. So, Mr. M, can you just talk to us quickly about what you've discovered in studying the different personality types and how those can apply to where we put people in our businesses?
Sure, absolutely. So, all right. So, with that question, how much time do we have? We've got because
All you want.
I could talk about the personalities for a long time, and these are also what we call the temperaments. Okay, so what are your God-given temperaments that you were born with? And a lot of my research. So there's, if you're listening to this call and you've done anything on personalities or temperaments, you might have done like Myers-Briggs, or you might have done DISC surveys, or there's all sorts of ones out there. But when I started this was back in the 80s, okay? And there was a book by a lady named Florence Littauer called Personality Plus. And you could still get that book on Amazon. It's still available. And she talked about where do these personalities really come from? And this was Hippocrates. And this is like, I'm taking a stab in the dark here, but this is like 400 BC, right? So this is quite a long time before me anyway. And they identified four personality types. And these were the choleric, the sanguine, the melancholy, and the phlegmatic. And when we look at those four personality types and realize that everybody has a mix of all four, okay, so it's not like you're just one. You're going to have a mix of all of these, but you are going to have a dominant type personality. So, and that's really going to guide you. Okay, so if we talk about the four personalities. We'll start with the sanguine. Sanguines are fun-loving people. Okay, these are people that they never stop smiling. They've never met a stranger in their life. They'll talk to anybody. My wife is very high in the sanguine category, and we say that she goes into the bathroom and she comes out with three friends. Okay, so
In a two-person bathroom.
yeah, yes. Um, Sanguines, they're what we call the life of the party. Okay, so if you want to have a successful party at your house, make sure you invite some of your sanguine friends because they're going to make everybody feel comfortable. They make everybody happy. They're great storytellers. Okay, they talk with their hands a lot. That's how you spot them. If you go into a room that's got 100 people in it, you can spot the sanguine because they'll have a crowd of people around them, and they'll be talking with their hands. That's okay. So that's the first type person. The polar opposite to the sanguine is the melancholy. Okay, and melancholies are loners. Okay, in a sense where I'm a melancholy, so I'm going to talk about this in like first person. But the way I see things is I don't want to be that center of attention. If we went to a party, my wife would be the one with the crowd of people around her telling a story. I would be in the corner probably checking my emails on my phone because I want to look busy so that nobody talks to me, right? So it's like I'm going to find something to do. Or I might find the host who's having the party and say, is there something I could help with? Can I set something up? Put me on a project and I could be good with that. But we don't socially interact. If you and I sat together on an airplane on a 3-hour flight, I would put my headphones on. And not even because I'm listening to music. It's kind of like a do not disturb sign, right? And I know this sounds terrible, but that's the way we are. Melancholies, because of that, we tend to work alone. We become the accountants of the world. We become the lawyers, because we could work behind computers all day long. I'm an analyst. That's what I do. I'm an efficiency consultant for businesses. I look at numbers. I look at profitability. But I could come to your business and you could put me in a room with no windows and I could work there for 10 hours and not have any problems at all, right? I could be all alone for 10 hours and I could get through that. A sanguine couldn't survive in that space for 15 minutes. They'd be going crazy because one gleams their energy from other people and the other one really gleams their energy from solitude. Okay, so two totally different personalities. The way the sanguine is very detailed in life. That's why they are accountants. That's why they are lawyers, because melancholies, we don't just follow directions. We kind of rewrite the directions and say, they could have done this better if they did it this way. Sanguines are completely disorganized. Okay, they never know where their keys are, right? My wife walks around and she says, Darren, do you know where my glasses are? I'm like, yeah, have you looked on top of your head? And there's two sets there, right? So that's the difference in those two. So polar opposites, and they tend to attract. So my wife's mainly sanguine and I'm mainly melancholy. The other two are the choleric and the phlegmatic. Now the choleric, these are your natural born leaders. Okay, so cholerics take charge in situations. In the service, they become your generals, they become your captains. In business, they become the managers of your company, and someday they're going to own your company probably. They're very entrepreneurial. They don't want to take orders from anybody. They want to be giving the orders, okay? Florence Littauer says cholerics are the easiest people in the world to get along with as long as you're doing everything the way they want to. Right? There'll be no problems. But cholerics are the ones that you want running your companies for you, okay? They're going to take charge. They're going to make the hard call, and they're just all about achieving targets, achieving goals. And then the opposite of the choleric is the phlegmatic. And the phlegmatic are just the most loyal people they are. They come to work on time. They leave work on time. They'll never steal from you. They want to do an honest day's work. They don't want to be in charge, though. Don't promote them to management because they don't like conflict. And in a high level of phlegmatic, it's hard for them to make the tough call. So if you're a phlegmatic and you're running your business and there's someone that really needs to go, instead of firing them, you're like, Well, I'll tell them next week. I'll tell them after the holidays, or I'll give them one more chance, or I'll give, because you don't want to make that decision because you feel for the person. You're empathetic, and that's what makes you a great person. So we all have these mixes. Okay, now why is this important in business? Well, in automotive repair, if you take a mechanic who has a sanguine temperament and you have him rebuild an engine or rebuild a transmission, it's going to come back because to rebuild a transmission is very detailed and it takes like 8 hours. Sanguines have a 15-minute attention span. That's it. So they should be, they should be doing tire rotations. They should be doing oil changes, things like that, not transmissions. And we just mix these people up. If you in our restaurant, okay, I'll give you an example. Let's say you have a reservation at my restaurant for 7:30 p.m. Okay, and let's just pretend here we're running a little bit behind, and your table is not going to be ready for about 20 to 30 minutes. Okay, that might upset you. Okay, you might be the type of person that gets upset because you made this reservation. So let's say you come in, and I happen to put a host that's high in sanguine. Okay, what's going to happen is you're going to come in and you're going to say, I'm here for my 7:30 reservation. And I'm going to say your table's not ready until 8. So you have about a 30-minute wait. But before you even have a chance to get mad, I'm going to say, so tell me about yourself. Where are you from? Where do you live? Tell me about your family. What are your kids like? And you know what? Why don't we do this? Let's go over to the bar. We'll have a glass of wine together and we'll start chatting. Right now, you just made a friend. You don't even care that your table's not ready. You're having a great time. And my sanguine host has abandoned her station. Okay, so now no one else in the restaurant's even get seated because the sanguine has a new friend, and that's all they care about. They just care about.
There's going to be a compliment for sanguines that came out of there. It's another insult. Listen, in
No,
light
it's
of
not
that,
an insult.
oh, I want to tell a quick story about melancholy people. And listen, and I want to apologize. Yeah, I'm gonna defend Darren for a second, and then I'm gonna take a shot at him. I want to apologize for Kyle always calling you Mr. Manzari and what do you call Mr. M, because he's making you seem older than you are. I apologize on Kyle's behalf. Okay, now I'm taking my shot. So I think we're in Houston or something, right? And we go to dinner, and I think it's maybe me, my wife, and Nancy and Darren and a bunch of other people, but we're sitting close to each other. And we're there for a work event, and we're talking work like the whole 3 or 4 days. And we finally sit down to dinner, and Darren's wife, Nancy, says, all right, now no more business talk. We've been talking business since we got here. And so we're like, okay. And we sit down. I think the waiter comes over, asks us what we want to drink. We get something to drink. And there's like a brief pause, right, where it's quiet, which doesn't usually happen. And within 60 seconds, Darren goes right back into business.
He's thinking, well, I got to be able to write this meal off.
That's because I have nothing else to talk about.
That's melancholy.
On a subject. Yeah, I can't make it's just not possible for us, Tim. We want to, but it's not.
He's like, so how about the weather?
Take that, melancholy people.
But that's a perfect example, right? So now on the host stand, and I'm not taking a shot at sanguines because they're great at diffusing those situations. They'll make everybody happy and comfortable. But let's say that same person came in and there was a choleric at the host stand, okay? The choleric would say, I know you had a 7:30 reservation, but your table's not going to be ready till 8. And that's it. They'll stop right there. And if the customer tries to get mad, they'll go, look, that's just what it is. Go to another restaurant, see if I can, right? Because they don't. They're just going to order you that your table will be ready at 8. There's no apology. It's just the way it is.
No compassion.
So that's your choleric. A phlegmatic, they're so empathetic. When you come in and I see that it's going to be 30 minutes, they're going to go, just give me a minute, please. And they're going to go in the back room and probably cry, right? And they're going to look for the owner and go, I don't know what to tell them. Like, you should have had the table ready. And they're right? Because they feel so bad about the situation. Melancholy, this is hypothetical. Never would have happened anyway. Melancholy would have had their schedule correct, and at 7:30, your table will be ready at 7:30.
Oh my God!
It out.
Had the perfect ratio figured out so that the minute they walk in the door, their table's ready.
That's exactly right. Because they're not going to make that mistake. They're not going to mess it up. So so these are the four personalities just in one position. And picture this in your business, right? And when you get to understand the temperaments and understand the personalities, you could really have a lot of fun with this. You start understanding people so much better. And this is important. This is really important if you're a leader. Because if you're a leader and you're leading a team of, let's say, 10 people, and you have to deliver a message, even though you say your words and you think you're being clear, the choleric hears it the way he wants to hear it. The melancholy hears it the way they want to hear it. The sanguine, where's the fun? I just want to know the fun. And the phlegmatic, they're there to please you anyway, so it's going to be no problem. They're going to be happy messages. But you can't talk to everybody the same. You have to understand who you're talking to and deliver your message differently. There's a great speaker, his name is Gary Smalley. And Gary Smalley takes these four personalities and attaches animals to them. Okay. And so he says the sanguine is like an otter because they're very playful animals. A choleric, though, is like a lion. Okay. And he's absolutely right. They are like lions. Okay. Phlegmatics, golden retrievers. Okay. And when I say golden retriever, if anyone knows a golden retriever, you probably just smiled and went like, oh, or something like that, right? That's because they're lovable. That's what a golden retriever is. That's what a phlegmatic is. And as far as your melancholies, these are the beavers. Okay, they're just busy doing their work. They're going to get things done and they're going to build a sufficient. But to give you an example, if I have someone working for me that's a lion and I have to deliver a message to that lion, well, just imagine if you and I were walking through the jungle and I go, there's a lion over there, right? We would probably be like moving very slowly and we wouldn't run at that lion. We wouldn't do anything to make that lion nervous because if we do, he's going to attack us. That's the way lions are in life. Okay, so if I have to deliver a hard message to a lion that works for me, if I just go up to him and go, hey, Kyle, I got to talk to you about something. Kyle's going, yeah, what? Right? And before you know it, we're like this. Because if I attack the lion, he's going to attack me back. So if I know you're a lion and I have to deliver a hard message, I'm going to go, hey, Kyle, I need your help with something. And you're going to go, oh, sure, Mr. M, what's up? So I'm going to diffuse you. I'm not going to get you to that startled point because you're a lion, right? And I don't want to be attacked. If you're a phlegmatic, I'm going to make sure my message doesn't hurt your feelings. Because if you yell at a phlegmatic, did you ever yell at a golden retriever? What do? They're going to cower in the corner because they feel like they failed you. Same thing. You could literally crush the spirit of a phlegmatic if you yell at them, right? So don't do that. Yell at a lion, you're going to have a fight. Yell at a phlegmatic, they're going to be crying in the corner. Yell at a melancholy.
Yelling at them, Darren.
Yell at a melancholy, and they're going to bring out all their data. You think I made a mistake, but I didn't. Let me show you the facts, right? Because they have the data to back up their decision. And yell at a sanguine, they're going to go, oh, stop it. And they're going to laugh and they're going to make you laugh. They're going to go, lighten up. They're going to tickle you. And then
right? Don't tickle your employees.
Yeah, don't HR 101. No tickling.
Yeah. But this is the truth. And there was a book written years back called Good to Great. It was written by a guy named Jim Collins. And that was a study of these businesses that showed exponential growth over a short period of time. And that whole book came down to like two sentences. It said what all these businesses had in common was the first thing they did was they got the right people on the bus. And the second thing they did was they got those people in the right seats. And that's all about the personalities. If you want to learn more, I have a short video that I made. It's like 17 minutes or 16 minutes long. And I did it for a homeschool convention. So if you watch it, just keep that in mind that I'm talking to kids in this. But maybe Kyle could put a link to that video and you could take a look at it. That'll explain the personalities.
Yeah, that's so good. And I think the big picture of all of this is really the intentionality, to really know your people, to see your people, and then, like you said, get them on the bus but that's not it. That's not the final responsibility. Get them in the right seat on the bus, and that's where it's critical. And when you cross those wires, you really set yourself up for a big disappointment. And I'm just thinking, even as we're talking, the kid that works full time for me, and like my visions for my business and whatnot, and trying to like make him fit into the role, the next role that I think I need for this bigger vision. If I force that, I'm going to sink the ship very quickly.
100% you are. And I'll give you an example. In our restaurant, I was in charge of the back end. Okay, so I'm just doing numbers, I'm doing profitability, I'm looking at our guest check averages, things like that. And I also help with leadership development, right? So I develop our leaders. But every once in a while, we got really busy, and Nancy would say to me, Darren, the host didn't show up. Would you mind hosting for an hour? You want me to host? That means I have to talk to people.
Are you crazy?
So I go, all right, I'll do it. 1 hour. And literally, I'll set a timer on my phone. You said 1 hour, it's going to be 1 hour.
Yeah.
But could you imagine? It's so hard for me that at the end of that hour, because I have to now take on this sanguine role, make people happy and make small talk. If I really had this job, okay, so let's say I didn't know anything about the personalities, and this company ran an ad for a host, and I'm like, yeah, I need to pay the rent. This sounds good. I'll host at the restaurant. That sounds good. And now I apply and I get the job because I interview well, right? So they hire me, and I'm doing it. Can I host? Yes, I could host, but it takes so much out of me that even though this is a great place to work, every night I'm going to come home to Nancy, and I'm going to be like, I just hate my job. And she's going to go, why? What's wrong? Nothing went wrong. I mean, they're nice to me. It's a nice place to work, but I just hate this role they put me in. I got to leave. And before you know it, I might make it 2-3 weeks, but I'm going to go get another job because this is literally exhausting. And what happens is it's no good for me, and this is no good for the restaurant because now the restaurant is experiencing high turnover because they're hiring people without understanding that they should be in natural roles. Now, that same restaurant could have hired me as a bookkeeper. They could have hired me as an analyst. They could have hired me as someone to control the inventory. Beautiful. That all goes along great with being a melancholy. And I would be happy working for that restaurant for the next 5 years. No problem at all. But put me in a host position, I'm leaving you in 3 weeks.
Right? Aaron, let me ask you a question. Is it possible that there are people that are working in the wrong role and get stuck doing it for years?
Yes, 100%. And these are people who they're just never really fulfilled in their career. They never feel fulfilled. They never feel happy. The paycheck is good. It pays my rent, especially if you're a phlegmatic, because you don't want to quit because you're a loyal person, but you're not happy in the role. Okay. And sometimes this happens a little opposite to what you're saying, where I am working for you for a long time, for like 5 or 10 years, and I'm happy. And then all of a sudden, a position for a supervisor comes up. And you're like, Darren's been with us 10 years. It's time to promote Darren to a supervisor. Well, you don't realize Darren's a phlegmatic, right? And you put me in a supervisory role where now I have to tell people what to do and tell people that they came in late. You mean I have to write this person up? I can't do this. I'm quitting. And all of a sudden, I've worked for you for 10 years. You promote me, and within a year, I'm gone. It's because you put me in a position that wasn't right for my personality. It wasn't right for my temperament. I was working with someone this morning from a company overseas that I work with, and he's in a management job because he's one of the sons of the family. He's a family-owned business. It's a very big business, right? So we're talking $1 billion a year company, probably 3,000 employees, 4,000 employees. And his division, he's a manager of about 10 or 12 people. And he literally told me today, he said, Mr. Darren, he said, I absolutely hate being boss. He said, I don't like it. He said, because he said, what am I supposed to do? What happened was this guy came in late today. And I said, did you write him up? He said, no. He said, I hate this part of the job. He said, and that's because he's a high phlegmatic. right? And he's in a role where his family, he's the next generation that's going to be leading this whole company, but he's not a leader. So I talked to him today and I said, look, I said, being a leader stinks because you're equating it that you have to make the tough call. But you don't always have to find them doing something wrong. So he came in late today. That's terrible. But was he on time yesterday? Well, yeah, he was. Did you thank him? No. I said, that's like the police. I said, they pull me over for speeding and they tell me I'm doing that wrong. But I've never once been pulled over by a cop for doing the speed limit where he just said, thank you for abiding by the laws. They don't do that. I go, but as a leader, you should be doing that. Why not, instead of waiting for him to come and lead, and now you have to go discipline him, when he comes in on time, when he comes in early, why don't you just say, hey, you know what? I just want to say thank you for being here on time. It means a lot to us because there are other people that count on you here. I count on you. Our customers count on you. And you show up on time like every day. I just want to let you know that I noticed that. And I just want to thank you for that. That means a lot to me. And he's like, I could do that. Yeah, I'm sure you can. You're a phlegmatic. That there's no controversy in that. I go, but now if you do that enough, he won't want to come in because he's not going to want to let you down. He's going to know that you're paying attention and he's going to show up on time just because of that. I said, and if he does come in late, there's probably a good excuse. And he's going to come to you and say, hey, I'm sorry I was late today, but there was some traffic where this occurred because he knows you're paying attention. I go, so if you understand that you have a phlegmatic in that role who doesn't like to make the hard calls, tell him to make the good calls. And you'll get just as much, and your staff will love it. Your staff will be very happy.
So I know Kyle's probably itching to tie this back to Exodus at the moment, but I wanted to just ask you a question about, as a business owner, as a leader, right? Well, we talked about the different personalities and they're suited for different things. For a leader that's doing everything, how do we know some of the first things that we should be delegating or some of the things that we should be working towards handing off because it's not in our natural skill set? Right? Is it safe to say that if you hate doing it, you should try to find somebody to do that job?
Absolutely. Like, let's put it this way: if you're not a high melancholy, but you're doing payroll, right, or you're analyzing your P&L, give that off to somebody. Give that to your accountant. Hire a payroll company. Don't be doing that yourself because that's too detailed. Okay, if you're not a melancholy, don't be making the schedule for people. Turn that over to someone. And when you do delegate, you want to know what are the temperaments of all your employees. Because if I'm going to delegate scheduling, that needs to go to a melancholy type person. If I'm going to delegate payroll, that needs to go to a melancholy. If I'm going to delegate leadership, right, I need someone to enforce policy and procedure and really run this right, or I need someone to achieve a target for me, that's got to go to a colleague. It has to, right? And if I want someone who's going to be in charge of, let's say, customer experience, like a CXO, a chief experience officer, get a phlegmatic for that because they have empathy for all the people. They're going to spot everything that would really a customer would be looking for, right? So you need to know who you're delegating to, right? So if you're in a company, and you're a leader in the company, you should be doing a personality assessment on your entire team and making everybody take these tests so that I mean, if you don't understand, this is one of the core understandings of people, right? If you want to understand someone, understand what their temperament is. And if you're leading people, how could you lead people if you don't understand people, right? So if you're a leader and you've never heard of this, not insulting you, but I'm just encouraging you to study more on this subject because it's like, if you hire me to do numbers, I should have some skills and understanding in math. If you hire me to speak at your church, I should have an understanding of the Bible. If I'm hiring you to lead people, you should understand people, right? Think of it like that. I suppose I could
make it. Yeah, so good. Yeah, it just keeps reminding me of all of the wisdom that there is there on like the most successful people in the world are the ones who surround themselves with people smarter and better than themselves in their weaknesses. John Maxwell says, don't work on your weaknesses, work on your strengths, because in either facet, you're going to improve on a scale of 1 to 10. You'll likely improve 1.5, maybe 2 points. If you're really crazy, you might improve 3. That's going to be a real phenomena. But it's so crucial for us to surround ourselves with the people that cover our blind spots and cover our weaknesses. So that speaks to the importance of one, knowing and being humble enough to admit your weaknesses. I always love one of the stories that he tells about he's on stage. I'm speaking to John Maxwell. He's on stage telling this whole conference full of business leaders that when you get home, you need to go and you need to tell your team your weaknesses. And so he gets done with this whole session, and one of the guys comes up next to the stage, just itching to talk to him. He's got to get to him, right? And he comes up to John Maxwell and he goes, "I think you're wrong. You can't go back and tell your people your weaknesses." And John Maxwell's like, "Oh, you meant I thought like reveal them to them. No, no, they already know your weaknesses. I'm saying admit to them." And so the whole point is like the people around you, they already know your weaknesses. They already see them. So if you are strong enough to admit those to your people and then to cover your blind spots and cover your weaknesses with the people around you who are then strong in those points, that's why I think in your instance, Mr. M, God brings together a melancholy and a sanguine, two polar opposites that can help cover each other's extreme blind spots, you know.
That's exactly right. It's so funny. I have when I work with businesses, I can't tell you how many times I start working with a business owner and they go, because they're doing everything themselves. It's like we've been talking about being incorporated, right? They have 10 people, but they're doing 90% of the work. And they always say the same thing. If I could just clone myself, life would be great. And I'm like, no, if you cloned yourself, life would be horrible because all the things that you're bad at, you'd still be bad at. I go, what you need to do is hire someone that's polar opposite, just like you were saying, Kyle. And that's what I need. I don't need, like you said, John Maxwell said you could improve by like 1 or 2 points. I could tell you for the last 8 years or 7 years, it's been a while, but I started intentionally trying to be more sanguine. Okay. And so what I do is I challenge myself sometimes to just go up to people and meet people. So I'll be in an elevator and I'll just start talking to someone, but I'm doing it intentionally. I don't want to talk to this person, but I'm just trying to get better at it. It happened to me today. I had a new person moving across the street from us over here. And I'm like, oh, I guess I got to go introduce myself. He's out there. And that was like so hard for me. Like, I was like, hey, I'm Darren. He said, hey, I'm Randy. Oh, nice to meet you. Where you're from? And he told me he's from South Carolina. Okay, that's great. Nice to meet you. I'm ready to end the conversation right there. He starts going on and on about telling me this. And now I'm like, I don't know how to get out of this. Right. So now he's talking and talking and talking. And all I'm thinking is, how am I going to escape? Like,
I want to role play this so bad, but for the sake of time, we won't.
It's so bad. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I know this sounds terrible, and this is one of my weaknesses. So I'm freely admitting it to you. So if you want to, but I intentionally try. I reach out and say to myself, okay, I'm going to talk to that person. And if you're a sanguine watching this, you're going like, what is he talking about? Why wouldn't you want to talk to people? And if you're a melancholy, you're sitting there going, I know exactly.
Totally.
So, well, I'm not going to try to go and crunch some numbers and build spreadsheets. So that's a challenge I'm going to leave to you.
Correct. And Tim, as a sanguine, if we need to meet someone, I'm always going to push you to the front of that conversation because as long as you're talking, I don't need to be.
Yep.
But let's do what Tim said, and let's tie this back to Moses. Okay. Yeah. So here you read a passage that said, and I'm not reading from my Bible, right? I should start doing this. Hold me. I'm a melancholy. I should do this. Right? So here he said, I'm in verse 21. Mm-hmm. He says, moreover, you shall select from all the people able men. Okay, so we could just stop there for a second and say his first job was to decide who was the able man. And some of you might read that and say able in physical strength or able in the ability to talk to people. But have you thought about able in being choleric and being able to lead people? Maybe God here is alluding to the personalities and say, hey, Moses, don't grab a phlegmatic and put him in a leadership position. That's going to be wrong because they can't make that tough call. They have too much empathy for the people. So select able men, select cholerics. And then he says, such as God, such as fear God, men of truth, hating covetousness, and place them to be rulers over thousands, rulers over hundreds, rulers over 50s, and rulers over 10s. And that's going to take different people to do that. It's going to take different personalities. Can a phlegmatic lead 10 people? Yeah, they probably can. Can they lead 50 people? No, they can't, because you're going to have too much controversy. To lead 50 people, to lead hundreds, to lead thousands, you need strong lions. That's what you need. People who aren't going to, they're going to hold the line. You're going to go there. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. You're going to do this. That's what they're going to do. They're going to delegate what they need to delegate. Nobody's going to talk back to them. And they're going to move this along forward, right? I'll give you a story. In our restaurant once, our cook, our head cook and our kitchen manager wanted to hire another line cook. And we gave them a personality test. We personality test all our people. And he passed the skills test. He knew what he was doing. Everything was great. And Chris was like, can I hire him? And I said, yeah, absolutely. I said, but Chris, I want you to know something before you hire him. He said, what? I said, in 30 days, he's going to have your job. Chris goes, what? He goes, aren't you and Nancy happy with me? I go, we're very happy with you. I go, but you score here as a lion, and he scores here as a lion. And he's never going to work for you. I said, in 30 days, you're going to be working for him. And honestly, there's nothing I could do to stop it. I said, it's going to happen. It's natural. I said, so if you want to hire him, have at it. I said, it's your kitchen. I'll abide by that decision. But if you don't want that to happen, don't hire him. And I'll actually hire him for a different spot in our company, because there is a spot I need a lion like that. So we're not going to not hire him because of his personality, but I'm going to place him in a role that's not going to conflict with my other lion. The last thing I need is two lions in the same net. They're going to kill each other.
Totally. Well, and I think in both that instance and in the guy that you said hated being a manager because of the conflict in it, really we see there exactly what Jethro is telling Moses that he has to do. We talked about this a little bit before, that good leadership is good business ownership, or leadership is not just finding the right people, putting them on the bus, and then putting them in the right seats on the bus, and then just abdicating all of your responsibility to them and say, hey, well, let's see how it goes. It's this continual ongoing leadership here. Moses is entrusted with this responsibility to continue to teach these guys and to continue to coach them because for instance, in the story that you told about the guy that hated being a manager, if just using the personality tests is your only informant of your decisions, then you just say, oh, he's phlegmatic. Nope, no leadership position for him. But if you can say, okay, what is a phlegmatic good at? Okay, they're good at positive reinforcement, and they're good at noticing the good that this guy is doing. Then this guy can still be in the position that he's in. He just needed some coaching. So it just speaks to the importance of continuing to coach our people.
Yeah, and I'm going to help you with one word there too. And this is going to task you leaders out there. I'm going to put the onus on you now. Let's say I have a position and I want to hire this person, and they're going to be in a leadership position. So they're going to manage a team, but they score high in phlegmatic. Okay. What that means is they could lead this team, but at some point in time, they're going to have to make the tough call. Okay. They're going to have to let someone go. They're going to have to discipline someone. They're going to have to dress down, whatever, however you want to phrase it. What I do is when I hire that person, I say, let's say it's Kyle. I say, Kyle, look, I'm going to have you lead this team because I think you could do it for these are the qualities that you have that I need in this. But at times, because you're a leader, there's going to be times where you're going to have to do things that aren't going to be so comfortable to you. You're going to have to fire someone. You're going to have to let people go. You might have to have hard talks. At that time, I want you to know I'm here for you. And if you call me, I'll support you in that. And if you want, we'll go talk to them together. And you could be in the room, but I'll do that. I'll take that load for you. And that's how a phlegmatic could work in a leadership role. Don't put them to a point that they have to make a tough call because it's just not in them to do that. Okay. So that's where I need to step in and support, or maybe take another leader from this area of the company and say, look, at some point in time, Kyle might call you for these reasons. I want you to go support Kyle in that role. Yes, no problem at all. So by you understanding the personalities and understanding the roles, you could now give them the support, what we said earlier, support where they're weak. That's where they're weak, right? Phlegmatics are fantastic. They're just weak when it comes to controversy and hurting people because they have too much empathy. So if I know that, I'll put something in place so they don't have to deal with that. They can handle everything else, 90% of the job they could do, and that 110 or 5% of that job, we got you when it comes to no problem.
And I think it speaks to the importance of exposing them to some adversity for sure, knowing that by way of adversity we grow the most. And nobody likes it. No, it reminds me of a word in Scripture that Paul said. He said, "When you face many trials, the word that he uses is hupomene, which means to remain under." So he says, when you face trials, remain under them. And it's always to me just brought up a picture of exercising, and specifically like on the squat rack, that if you pull the weight off the squat rack and then immediately say, oh no, it's too heavy, and you throw it back on the rack, you gained no benefit from that weight. But if you remain under it and literally squat the weight, then you gain the benefit. It's hard, it's not fun, it's not easy, but you're gaining the benefit. And so it's, I think we see in that the importance of being subjected to some adversity, just not so much that it's going to break the guy and make him quit. Like you said, if you put a melancholy at the hostess station, that's adversity for sure, but it's the adversity that's going to cause him to break, and he's going to leave you in about 3 weeks.
Exactly, exactly. And when you do put these people in place, and again, let's go back to Moses. Men over 10, men over 50s, men over 100s. They were people. I shouldn't say men, people. Once you do that, you need to support them and let them do their job. Okay, this goes back to what we talked about previously on micromanagement. Okay, what we phrase, my wife and I say, don't cut your legs out of your men, right, or your people. Let them do their job. And what do I mean by that? In one of our companies, we have about 50 or 60 people in the company. And we have, I'm an owner and my wife's, okay, so we're the owners. But then we have one person, okay, and she reports to me or she reports to my wife. Other than that, let's say the other 59 people don't come to me with anything. If you want to talk to me about your family, you want to talk to me about Christmas, you want to shoot some ideas on your spouse, like, hey, I'm going to get them this gift. What do you think? No problem. I'll talk to you all day long. You want to buy a new car? Let's talk about your new car. That's great. But if you come and ask me a question about work, right? Like when I'm in the restaurant, people will say, oh, Mr. Darren, I'm so glad you're here. I need to know how to do something. And I go, why would you ask me that question? You know I don't work here, right? And they always laugh when I say that because I'm the owner of the company, right? And they go, no, really, how do I do this? I'm not going to tell you, I don't work here. I said, who's your direct report? And they'll tell me who their direct report is. Have you asked that person? And they say, no, I haven't. Okay, let me ask you a question. And we have our core values everywhere in the restaurant, right? They're in every single room. And I'll put the core values right in front of them. And I say, if I answer your question right now, you should really be going to your direct report. But if you circumvent them and come to me and I give you permission to do something, I am disrespecting his position or her position. And by disrespecting her position, look at our core values. Respect is a core value. And this is something, it's not just words on a piece of paper. These are our core values that we live by. I'm not going to disrespect anybody, including you, right? It's just not in me to disrespect you. So the right chain of command is we have people over tens, people over hundreds, people over 50s. That's what we have. We have a tiered org chart. So everybody goes to their direct report, and there's only one person in the whole company that could come to me with a problem, and that's her. That's our general manager. And she could come to Nancy and she could come to me. But other than that, there are people to handle this tier of problems, people to handle this tier of problems, and she handles all these problems. And if for some reason she can't handle it or she needs help, then she'll come to us and we will gladly help. There's no problems at all, right? Please come to me with any problem you're having. We're here to help. So we're not shirking our duties, but we're supporting the people we have in place. And it's in a tier, just like you see here in the Jethro principle. That's exactly how we do it.
Yeah, and that's so critical. I think a lot of people in the leadership position, such as yourself, would just say, "Oh yeah, sure, I can answer that," and not realizing that they're literally cutting the knees out from under the people that they're have put in those positions and are paying to carry out those roles. It's such a dangerous thing because you're like, well, I'm just being a nice guy. She just came up to me and asked me a question, and it would seem like a jerk for me to say, go ask your boss, basically, but that's actually the more effective and productive thing for the organization.
Exactly. And think of it like this, Kyle. Let's say you and I work in a company, okay? And Tim owns the company, and you're the general manager for Tim, and I'm an employee, okay? And even though you have me working on this project, I see a project over there that I want to work where I could be effective, okay? But maybe you're just in the other room or you're somewhere and I see Tim and I say, hey, Tim, can I go over there and handle that project? And you don't even think about it. You go, yeah, Darren, is that in your skill set? Yeah, I could do such a good job of that. Oh yeah, absolutely. Go do that. Okay. Now all of a sudden Kyle comes back in and he's like, Darren, what are you doing? Well, like you're supposed to be over here doing this. And now I say to you, oh no, Tim said I could do this. You would feel like, why does Tim have me in this position? Like if he's going to override me, well, Tim, what do you do? Right. And maybe you won't say anything to Tim because maybe you don't have enough choleric in you to go after Tim. Now, if you were a lion, if you're a white lion, you're going to walk right up to Tim and go, Tim, what's up? Like,
what's the deal?
and you're going to start that confrontation. But if you're not a lion, you're just going to harbor this. Yeah. And you're going to feel that Tim doesn't respect you. And you're going to go home and say to your spouse, you're going to say to Jamie, I don't understand why Tim even put me this way. Like if he's going to override me every single day, like what's the point even having? And you're going to feel like you're not respected. And it's going to be terrible. And you know what? Eventually, you're going to go find another job. And Tim doesn't even know this is happening. He just thinks, I'm just answering a question.
Yeah, I really like this example because I was the business owner, and then it turned out that I was the undermining jerk.
Yes. You see how quick that could happen?
Right.
And you know what's funny? Nobody even realizes this is going on, Tim, because someday Kyle's going to quit because he's going to feel that you don't respect him. You're not going to understand why Kyle quit because you're going to go home and you're going to say, I don't understand why Kyle left. I've only been good to Kyle. I've only supported Kyle. Like anything he needs, I'm there for him. And you don't even realize you're cutting the knees out.
And you're even thinking, I'm even there to answer questions from employees to try and make his job easier.
Correct. And then here we have companies with high employee turnover. Right? And they're like, the owner's like, I don't know why I have employees turning over. I treat them so good. No, you don't. You're disrespecting them and you don't even realize you're doing it for them.
Yeah, it speaks to the danger of people pleasing, I think, which I've definitely been guilty of, where in the moment you just want to like satisfy the need. and not thinking of the bigger picture and how doing that very thing could actually, just like we've just said, be cutting the knees out from not just the leader that you've appointed, but your business altogether. You're just crippling the org chart, if you will.
Exactly. That's exactly what you're doing. That's a perfect way to put it.
Yep. Yep.
Right.
Tim, unless you have any final points, I'm just going to read this final section of 18. Either of you guys have anything final to discuss there?
I was just gonna try to speak a word of encouragement for everybody that if you struggle with some of those things, I know the Bible doesn't explicitly say it, but I'm sure Moses had some kind of turnover in the people that he was putting in place. So if you have some turnover, that's okay. Just be focused on improving every day, taking some of these nuggets that Darren's given us here, and starting to implement them into your business.
Yep. Amen. Especially with the Israelites as his group. They were just known quitters. Like, God, just if only we were slaves back in Egypt again. It was so much better there. It's like, can you imagine leading that group? Oh boy, they're just looking for a reason to quit. That's
Yes.
tough for sure. So, well, if we look at verse 24 here, it says Moses listened to his father-in-law's advice and followed his suggestions. So, in that, I think we see a little bit of humility. Moses was willing to admit, okay, yeah, you're right, Jethro. What I'm doing is not good. It's not the best possible option. Verse 25 says he chose capable men from all over Israel and appointed them as leaders over the people. He put them in charge of groups of 1,000, 150, and 10. These men were always available to solve the people's common disputes. They brought the major cases to Moses, but they took care of the smaller matters themselves. And so, in that, I think we see, I would say, and this was something that hit me earlier too, not to open a can of worms here, but um, Moses has direct contact with God himself. Like he can go up to Mount Sinai and just speak directly to God, and yet still God sends Jethro to coach Moses here. So that's something I think that we can get into a little bit there, that it's important for us to have as much time as we can in direct connection with the Lord, but it's also important for us to surround ourselves with mentors, people who have been there before, who have seen it and done it, and who can coach us. And of course, making sure that they also know the Lord, that they're well placed mentors and well versed mentors. So, just great importance to that. I think we see here everything that we've talked about playing out. I don't dare say that it played out to perfection because, like we just said, this was still a squirrely group of people that were, he probably did have a lot of turnover. They couldn't quit being Israelites, but they could quit being his leaders. And so I'm sure he did have to replace a good number of them.
Kyle, before you close, I want
Mhm.
to say something because you just said something that was really important. And this is important if you're a business owner, this is really important. And I'm going to use John Maxwell as something he said to me because we were just kind of like at a seminar sitting together one day, and I'm friends with John Maxwell, right? So we talk on a very informal way, and Kyle said something there. He said Moses is in direct contact with God, but God still put him in a position where he should surround himself with mentors. Okay. And you should do that too. You should surround yourself with mentors. But when you do that, you want to, I want to say, have an open spirit. Don't think you have all the answers. Okay. And be ready to ask them questions, right? Like, again, one of my morning questions all the time is, God, what are you going to show me today that I've never seen before? Like, I want to see something today that I've never seen before. And what I'm doing is I'm putting my brain in a mode that I'm going to be searching for something I've never seen before. Or if I say, what are you going to teach me today? I have to be now searching for something that I don't know that I could learn. And John Maxwell said to me, he goes, Darren, you'd be surprised how many business owners I meet. And they get a chance, like I'm at a seminar, and after the seminar, they meet me and they come to me and they go, Mr. Maxwell, it's so great to meet you. I said, it's great to meet you too. And there's no rush. It's not like there's a line of people or anything. And at that moment, they could ask me any question they want, anything. And they go like this: "It's so nice to meet you. Can we take a picture together?" and that's it. And I say, "Did you want to ask me anything?" And they can't even think of one question to ask. And here's an opportunity where I can answer any question about leadership. But they weren't prepared to be in that mode of learning. And because of that, like, trust me, if you have 5 minutes to spend with John Maxwell, you should have a list of questions ready to ask him, because he's going to answer them. He's going to give you really profound answers. It's like, it's like seeing the wizard, right? It's like, right. And but you want to be prepared for it, right? Don't waste that moment if you have it, right? So surround yourself with mentors, but internally prepare yourself with questions. What are those things you're struggling with? What are those questions you have about leadership, about your company, about ways you could be improving, about ways you could achieve new targets, right? What are some ideas you want to run by someone, right? Be prepared for that. And if God surrounds you with mentors, or tells you to be surrounded with mentors, just like he did with Moses and Jethro. Imagine if Jethro came over and was going to say to Moses, what he said: "What you're doing is not good." But instead, he went up to Moses, and Moses said, "Oh, Jethro, I don't have time for you right now," or, "I'm busy doing this," and maybe never asked the question. Or if Jethro just never said that, here we would never have this as an example for us, right? So thank God that they had that conversation. So be prepared for that.
Darren, really quickly, could you just give us a 20-second explanation of who John Maxwell is, for those listening that may not know who he is?
Sure. If you don't know who John Maxwell is, he's considered probably the greatest teacher on leadership that's alive today, right? John Maxwell has written, don't hold me to this number, but it's going to be over 50 books on leadership. Some of his most popular books are the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership. And I love the 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell. It's a great, great book. But he's also written good books like Intentional Living and things like that. And even though he's such an amazing teacher on leadership, and he's recognized worldwide as, he's the guru of leadership. If you want to learn leadership, you go to John Maxwell. John Maxwell will freely tell you, if you say, "Where did you learn this all from?" He'll say to you, "Everything I teach about leadership and everything I know about leadership comes from the Bible." That's what he says, right? He'll freely tell you that. It's all there. Like, you could learn it from me, but it's in the Bible. If you read the Bible, it's all God's taught it to us. And he was actually a pastor for 25 years before he wrote the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership and started going in this direction. So he's a very godly man. He's learned all his leadership skills from the Bible, and just a fantastic speaker, a fantastic author. I'd recommend any of his books, but if you haven't read any of them, start with either the 21 Laws or start with the 5 Levels of Leadership. Those are 2 good books to begin with.
So there's a number of books that we mentioned in the podcast today, so maybe we can get that added to the notes for people to find them. And Kyle, just so you know, I was running a stopwatch here on the side to see how melancholy Darren actually was, because that was...
It wasn't 20 seconds, was it?
Well, I can't say anything in 20 seconds. Well, I shouldn't say that. Okay. If you ask me a question, I can answer you for an hour. It doesn't matter. But if you say, "Hi, my name's Tim. Nice to meet you." Yep. I'm out in 20 seconds. No problem.
Right. You're thinking, okay, are we done here? That's great.
Nancy was laughing because today a guy came up to me and started telling me this story about, and to him, this was a big story. He was telling me about how he almost died and how he recovered and how he, and Nancy was like, "You couldn't get out of there quick." like my face was like, "Why are you telling me this? Like, I don't know who you are." I'm very happy for you. It's awesome. Nice to meet you. See you later.
You're like, if there's not a problem in this story for me to solve, you're wasting your time.
That's correct. Perfect way to put it. You're still alive. It sounds like you've conquered this problem.
Right. So what more is there to discuss?
Yes.
That's great. Well, I just love that, like you said, John Maxwell, when leaders come up to him and press him and they say, "You got to tell me where you learned all this." And he kind of like, I'm not sure you want to know the answer to that, because a lot of people don't like the fact that all of this wisdom comes directly from Scripture. And so I just love the fact that we get to go directly to the source. We get to spend this time together, get to dig into God's word and find out exactly what he's got for us. There's so much to it. I see no end to this insight. We can keep digging into this thing forever. And I just think that God's going to continue to reveal to us exactly how he wants us to conduct ourselves, how we can run our businesses in a manner that really glorifies and honors him. So that's our prayer for you, is that God will continue to reveal his will to you, that he will give you spiritual wisdom and understanding so that you may produce every good kind of fruit in your life, and that you may continue to grow as you learn to know him better and better. That's God's will for you. That's our wish and our prayer for you. And we can't wait to see you guys next time right back here on Business and the Bible. God bless you. Have a good week.